This is Delicious Dignity, where we cultivate a self so potent, so clear, so vital, so truthful, that our life is all the more luscious for it. Let's call ourselves into being, shall we? Happiest of New Year's to you, lovelies. What an incredible year this is going to be. I truly feel that in my bones, and I believe in it not just for me, but also for you. And I know by the end of this episode, you're going to see it too. I wanted to do a channeling of my own intuition and do an energy reading for you for this entire year. And I thought that what better time to do this than on the first new moon of this new year, which is on January 18th. Now, please don't worry. These are not predictions. Predictions as in on September 21st, this amazing thing is going to happen. That's not what this is about. I would never dishonor you like that. We're moving away from new age performative culture and we're going into like true, deep spiritual work, right? And so these are simply intuitive messages. Think of it like advice or guidance for what's ready and ripe for the picking in 2026. What are the energies available to you in 2026 that you can take advantage of? In this process of putting this episode together, I relearned an important lesson that I've been learning every day for pretty much my whole life and probably will for the rest of it too. And that lesson is the difference between heart and head, mind and spirit. And so when I was putting this episode together, I was thinking to myself, it's true, I would love to do an intuitive reading for the collective for 2026, but how do I do readings for an entire group and have it resonate for everyone? What are the parameters for this? How can I make it general yet specific? And I was all up in my head about it because it's a brand new thing that I'm doing. I'm not sure whether it's going to work for this podcast and for everyone listening to it. But my intuition's advice was just let it flow, almost as if my intuition will take care of the parameters and I just need to take care of writing it down. And so I just wanted to point that out. Sometimes when we do something new, especially when we do something new, our spirit is in the right place, but then our mind tries to take the place of our spirit. It tries to take the driver's seat and is, oh, wait, put the brakes on. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Is this a good idea? And sometimes you just got to lead with what you really, truly want to do and then use your mind to come in and put those structures that you so badly want around the thing that you want to do. So in this case, for this episode, I let my intuition flow. And then after I did, I used my mind to put together everything that my intuition said into clean, neat themes and question-answer formats so that it's understandable for everyone. For some reason, that felt very important to share with you as we set up the energy for these intuitive messages I'm going to share with you. I think it's really important to keep in mind that we put things in the right places. We put spirit where it needs to be. We put our minds where it needs to be. And to have a seamless driving experience, if you will. Now, before we go into the 4 themes that have come through, I want to just remind you that I hope you went through some of the rituals, if not all of them, from the last 4 episodes. We did a 4-part moving from 2025 into 2026. And it was 4 episodes for that topic. And I truly guarantee big life shifts if you do them sincerely. I truly do. There are very few things that I guarantee like this, but yeah, I guarantee this much. So even if you can only do 1 or 2 from each episode, 1 or 2 rituals from each episode, you will be still set up for success in a way that you probably never have before because they're just that profound and they're that deep. And by the way, I also want to say that I know that December 31st is an artificial construct for the new year. It's the Roman calendar. It doesn't follow a nature-based calendar. And the new year is simply something we made up. Nature-based traditions will tell you that the new year begins in February or March and not December 31st and January 1st. So that being said, I don't want you to feel pressured to do all these rituals before, the start of the new year. You might very well keep returning to these rituals and keep even redoing them up till March, up till February, up till, in my tradition, it's August is our new year. So don't feel pressured by these rituals. Feel Like, wow, I have this guidance. I have this incredible way that I can dive deep and really come out new, like diving to the bottom of a lake and then coming up refreshed. I want to say that to you. Don't feel pressured. Yet at the same time, I also want to tell you that the world celebrates the new year around this time. And I cannot ignore that energy either. There's this energy of newness and freshness and hope and joy. And so we want to also ride that wave in January and ride it also in March if you want to, and then ride it around August if you want to. So when you're ready, all of it is there for you. So keep coming back to them, do them multiple times, and really sink into this freshness that's coming through, because I don't just feel it's the freshness of 2026 and a new year, but I feel like there's a new paradigm, a new global shift that we've all shifted into. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. And the thing that's been really beautiful about my 2026 so far is all these like nature-based messages that I feel like are symbols for what we're about to discuss. First, there was this gorgeous full moon with all these rings of moonlight around it. It was just absolutely gorgeous. And you can see pictures of this on my Instagram, Delicious Dignity. If you go, and there are pictures, there are videos, you can just see it all, because I really want you to sink into the magic of what I'm about to tell you. And I feel like all these little pictures and videos that I took were not just for me to enjoy, but also for you, to give you a visual of what we're sinking into. There was also meteor showers and beautiful coyote howling at the moon kind of videos on there, because it's just been such a beautiful few weeks. And then, of course, right after I take the video of the coyotes howling at the moon, 4 days later, a coyote appears on my front door. And then a few days after that, we get the most amazing snow in Sedona, and red rocks and white snow. That combination is just gorgeous. Yeah, stars, coyote, moon, snow, howls. Can you feel that magic when I say that? Because I really want you to see the videos and pictures on my Instagram, so go and look at them. But yeah, and you know what this also reminds me of? It reminds me of that poem that I gave you as an activation way back when, early on in the podcast. This was the Wilding poem. It was episode number 3, and it was an activation sequence for what I call your natural dignity. So go back and re-listen to that when you can, because I think it's going to be powerful. So yeah, welcome to season 2 of this podcast. I forgot to say that to you. It's going to be a wildly profound ride. You know how in episode 33 we came up with a word for our new year as one of our rituals so that we can claim it. What I also did was come up with words for this new season of this podcast. And the words that came up are wildly profound. And so yeah, with that, let's begin. So there are 4 key themes that we want to keep in mind for these intuitive messages for 2026, which is number 1, the spiritual benefactor. Number 2, the illusion of the false feminine. Number 3, consumption versus receptivity and spiritual hunger. And number 4, doing from knowing and your life song. So let's get into it. Let's get into the first theme of spiritual benefactor. In order to understand this theme, the first thing we have to understand is, where have you been coming from? And where have we all been coming from as a collective? How did we get here? What has been happening to lead us to this point of spiritual benefactor? And I'll explain what that means in a second, but we need to know where we're coming from to understand where we're at. So where we're coming from is, we came from this place of where we were, and maybe we were like this for years, maybe we were like this for only for a few weeks, but we were we're little fairy beings. So we've got a little bit of magic in our blood and in our bones. There's something very special about the way we are as people. And so we've got we're like little fairies, we've got wings, and we're trying to fly across an entire ocean by ourselves with our little tiny bodies and our little tiny wings. And it's not feasible that we do that. And I'm using this as a metaphor so that you understand the feeling of what I'm saying. So we're these magical beings, we're trying to do big work. And it's not feasible that we try to do it the way we're doing it. So we use whatever we've got, whatever tools we have, even if it's not the most appropriate or the best tools. And we use whatever tools we have, and we sit in our little maybe cups in the ocean. We sit in a small little paper cup, and we try to row our paper cup across the ocean because we're tired of flying. Is it the best solution? No. But we're doing the best that we can with what we have. And we're going at it alone, or we feel alone, because it involves a lot of self-motivation to do what we're doing. And we just need a break. So we'll sit in a paper cup and row ourselves in the ocean, or just let the paper cup carry us across the ocean. So this is the metaphor. Now, what is this about? So like I said, we're using our magic to do really big work. We're sort of by ourselves, or we feel that way. We don't have the best tools, or we're using the best tools that we can. We're a little bit tired, we're exhausted, and we're very inward focused during this time. There's not much else to do other than look deeply into ourselves. And that, when done too much, becomes melancholia, becomes a little bit sad. And it's contemplative at the same time. You're still contemplating. But there's a feeling of just not being satisfied, of being cast out, maybe being a little bit self-absorbed, really inward focused, maybe taken to a little bit of an extreme. But it's still, all of this felt necessary for us to do. Because in this whole metaphor, and in this contemplative, inward focused, isolated space, we have now come into 2026 with this energy of the spiritual benefactor. And so this contemplation that we had inward is now shining both inward and outward. We're almost becoming a little bit angelic. It's like the angelic human. All this effort, all this gigantic effort that you made wasn't wasted. We're becoming otherworldly in this world. And so for 2026 and in the future, there is this energy of taking advantage of a spiritual benefactor. This could be a god or a goddess or a being or an entity that you have some kind of personal connection with. Emphasis on personal connection. It feels deeply rewarding to be with this entity or being and asking them for help. Asking for help. In a way, we have stopped asking for help from universe, from spirit, from God, whatever you want to call it. Just asking for help. Trying not to go at it alone. And the aloneness is not just a human aloneness. We want to be well met even by spirit. And so the one line energy reading here is ask for help from your spiritual benefactor. So let me give you an example from my world. My spiritual benefactors are the people that I love most, people, if you want to call them that, people, but is Kali and Archangel Michael. I could not tell you how that happened and how we got here, but these are my two homies, if you will. They are people, they are beings that mean a lot to me, and if they've helped me through a lot. So I've been sick, or I was sick for the entirety of December. And at some point, I kept trying to go at it alone. I was like trying to look after myself, giving myself food, giving myself medicines, and nothing seemed to work. In fact, it felt like I kept getting worse. And then one day before I went to bed, I was like, wait, Kali, Archangel Michael, please, I need you to help me because I literally feel like I have to go to the hospital. I feel like I'm about to die. And I went to sleep with that ask in my mind. I woke up the next morning, I didn't feel particularly much better. And I was like, oh no, they didn't help me. That childlike part of us that feels rejected sometimes, that came in. And I was like, oh no, they didn't help me, blah, blah, blah. But that day, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go back to the grocery store and try to find another supplement. And because I'm a natural girly, I will not take medications unless absolutely necessary. I will try all the supplements and all the herbal remedies before I go down that road. So anyway, I go to the grocery store and I go to an aisle that I never visit, ever. Because for some reason, the aisle lit up for me. It was like there was a spotlight on it. So I go to that aisle and all of a sudden, this one tiny little eyedropper looking bottle caught my eye. And on it said, I forget what it said. What did it say? Oh, it said serious cough on the bottle. And I just knew I had to pick that up. And so I picked it up. I got it back home, and I went home and I took some of it. And within 2 or 3 hours, I felt immediately better. And within 3 days, that insane, like deeply hurtful cough that I had was gone. Now, can you say that's directly attributed to Kali or Archangel Michael? I don't know. Okay, that's not the point. The point is that I asked for help, and I stopped trying to go at it alone. And I asked for help specifically from a spiritual benefactor. Another example of this is one of the things that I've been doing for years and years is training my intuition, trying to get it to a really good, refined place. And there's always more to train on. There's always more to do. There's no end point for that. But what I realized when I was writing down this missive, I was like, oh, wow. One of the things I stopped doing was I stopped asking for help. I just relied entirely on my own intuition and my own intuition training and listening to my intuition and putting my intuition down. But I stopped really connecting with other spiritual beings. I stopped asking them for help within my intuition. It was always just me trying to hone my intuition. So even there, I had to look at myself in my own life and say, wow, I stopped asking for help there. I kept trying to go at it alone over there. And so this is another way in which I'm inviting that help in and I'm asking for help. If I'm being really honest, the reason why I stopped asking for help is because I started looking at how other people believe in deities and how they create entire religions around them and how they have this superiority complex about them. And that really bothered me. And even though I know that I am not like that and I would never connect with a being like that, it somehow just put me off because I was too busy looking at how other people were doing things and saying, I don't want to do that. And so then I threw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So I'm just giving you examples from my own life so you understand what we mean by the word spiritual benefactor. Ask for help. It's available to you. You don't have to if you don't want to, but just ask for help. Because the other side of a spiritual benefactor is not just us asking for help, it's that also we are becoming spiritual benefactors. In a way, there's this energy of, and I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can, we're becoming spiritual benefactors for other people while we're still alive and after we die. And I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try not to cry. But it's almost as if we are becoming ancestors worth claiming. We're in the process of that, and we are that, and we also can take advantage of those that have gone before us. And that is the whole energy of the spiritual benefactor. Okay, so that is the energy that's available to you and that's coming through in 2026. Now, the next theme is the illusion of the false feminine and receptivity versus consumption. So those two things go together. The question I always ask in every client reading, in every situation I'm ever in, if I want to know the truth behind something, the question I will always ask is, what is the spell or illusion that I am under or that my client is under? And so for this particular reading, I said, what is the spell or illusion that we are under as a collective right now that is particularly relevant for 2026 that we can bust through? And that illusion, to my surprise, was the false feminine. And there are many prongs to this umbrella. Okay, so the umbrella theme is the false feminine. And from that, there are many subtopics. What does that even mean, the false feminine? For this year, especially for this year, the false feminine aspect that we're working on is the difference between understanding what receptivity is and what consumption is, because we have confused the two. So the first thing my intuition said was, it posed a bunch of questions to help us tune into what the feminine is versus the false feminine. And so the questions it asked was, are you really working with the feminine, or is it just repackaged patriarchy in the form of the feminine, or with the mask of the feminine? Are you truly receiving, or are you just being passive? Are you truly flowing? Are you flowing with the current of life? Are you truly going with the flow? Or are you just being a beggar with your beggar bowl, passively accepting whatever comes into your bowl and calling that flowing with life? Is this the holy grail cup of life, or is this your beggar bowl? Are you being soft as in strong, or are you being soft as in weak? And these are some pretty hard-hitting questions, because I feel like, and then this is where my mind is coming in to help you understand this structure, because I feel like when the world is talking a lot about the feminine and going against the patriarchy and whatever, but sometimes in our effort to understand the feminine, we're just repackaging patriarchy and we're putting a feminine stamp on it. And that is not what the feminine is. The feminine is about receiving. It's about not the idea that things will just fall in your lap while you passively sit there and staying still. And this is where, if you look at episode 32, this is where I talk in depth about what is truly receiving and what isn't receiving. Because the opposite of receptive is active. The opposite of passive is aggressive. That's why we say passive aggressive, because a true opposite will always contain the seed of the other polarity. That's why we say passive aggressive. That's why when you look at the yin and yang diagram, you see a bit of yin and yang, you see a bit of yang and yin. That's the true opposite. So an active state versus a receptive state is that even in the receiving, we are still in an active place. We are actively receiving, not consuming. So now we go into the consuming versus receptivity thing. So one of the aspects of the false feminine that we are looking at in 2026 is looking at the act of consumption. What have we been consuming, and how has that been our way of coping with the spiritual hunger we feel? And so we consume instead of receiving to satiate the spiritual hunger. So let me give you some examples. Social media consumption, food consumption, the air consumption, the sex you let into your body, especially as a woman, the water you drink, even the porn you watch. All these things are things you consume in your physical body, your mind, your emotions, your soul. And the question is, we're consuming to satiate a hunger we feel, a hunger for intimacy, a hunger for love, a hunger for belonging, but it's actually not satiating anything because you're just consuming, you're not receiving. This could even be something as home decor. You know, people see some trends of home decor and they end up buying it. This decor is like lifeless objects in their home. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have a spirit to it. It doesn't have a soul to it. So the people who bought this home decor have not really received. They've just consumed. So this is the beggar bowl. You come out into the world, and in one of the episodes, I'm going to do an episode on the beggar archetype. But this is where the beggar archetype is coming into full fruition, because we're going out into the world with our beggar bowl saying whatever falls into this bowl is what we will eat. And so that's not really receiving, even though it looks like receiving because you have a beggar bowl out and things are falling into the bowl. So you're receiving what comes into the bowl, but that's not true receiving. That is just passive consumption. Again, if you want to practice real receiving, I have rituals for you in episode 32. But for this episode, I just want you to understand the concept because, like I've said so many times, okay, sometimes awareness is half the battle. Sometimes it's the only battle. Sometimes just being aware of what you're doing is enough for you to change it. So in 2026, more than ever before, we have the strength and we have the help necessary for us to change this aspect of the false feminine, for us to start truly receiving as opposed to just consuming. So when I heard this message, I was like, oh my God, I already took care of this. There is nothing that I need to look at that I'm consuming because my decor is exactly what I want. I don't watch porn. I have no like food things. How would you say that? I have no food issues where I eat bad food. I'm very clean eater. I drink great water, like everything that I'm looking at all the things I'm consuming. And I'm like, yeah, my social media is on point. I've eliminated so much of my social media. Like I don't consume a lot of that. And then I was like, oh, wait. Actually, there is one thing that I need to change in my consumption. And that was sometimes when I'm on the Instagram feed and I'm scrolling through, I get a lot of videos about how horrible men have been to women and all the things going wrong with just male female issues and how horrible it is to date and how just, yeah, I don't even know how to describe these themes. It's just really negative content about male female relationships and how that's affecting dating. And this is the kind of content that gets fed to me a lot. And I didn't really even realize it. So this time I was a little bit more conscious of it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just going to start hiding these videos from my feed and basically training the algorithm not to show me these people, these accounts, these kinds of posts. And so there's a way to do that. If you don't know, you can just Google it and see how you can train the Instagram algorithm to show you videos that actually align with your values, because that was important for me to realize that my values are actually wanting to be in a relationship with a really good man. That is my value. That is my desire. So then why am I looking at these videos that are coming across about how horrible dating is? I already know how horrible dating is. Nobody needs to tell me that. So I started removing that from my consumption. And then lo and behold, I found a random Instagram account where this woman is just really positive about how we can have these intimate relationships, especially as single people. And then I started finding more accounts that were like this and just really positive, uplifting content on what I can do about what my desires are, as opposed to just passively consuming whatever was thrown at me. I'm actually following the content that talks about my values, which is having an intimate relationship with a man, and teaching me how to have that relationship or set myself up for that relationship in the future. Now, it's important to know that these accounts are not just all positive, light and breezy, happy-go-lucky kind of accounts. They talk about really difficult things, but it's all geared towards the desire to, in fact, have an intimate relationship with someone, as opposed to the other content that I was passively consuming without knowing it, which is about how to avoid getting hurt or how to just be aware of all the bad things so that you might potentially not get hurt, which that is a separate stream of consciousness than the one that I wanted to be on. And so that is the closest example that I have in my own life to show you the difference between receiving and consuming. But I've given you some others previously. And so, yeah, I just hope that makes sense to you, because it's a complicated subject unless we tune into the energy of what we're doing. And okay, enough on that. I want to take you to the third and the fourth themes. So the third theme in 2026 is actually, no, we already did the third theme, which is consumption versus receptivity and spiritual hunger. The fourth theme and the last theme is doing from knowing and your life song. So the question I asked my intuition was, what is our best path forward as a collective? Something that everyone should have on their goals, their vision boards. What is that one thing? And the words that came were deep knowing, or a knowing that's so embodied that it takes very little effort or action to actually act. And I said, okay, intuition, that's a lovely concept, but what is the to-do? What is the practical action step? How do you cultivate deep knowing? And it was really simple. It was making space to receive your own wisdom. And so now, from a practical standpoint, what that means is creating space in your life. That's your to-do for 2026. That's your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to make space for the life you want to live, for the wisdom you want to receive. It's almost as if we're continuing the contemplation that you were coming into 2026 with, but this time it's far more active and we're doing it with far more gumption than before. Because before it seemed a little bit melancholic, now it feels very confident, very secure, and very steadfast. So instead of being overloaded with the consumption, we are now eliminating for reception. I didn't mean to have it sound so poetic, but eliminating as in eliminating things to make space for you to receive. That's what that means. So this is where you're taking back your energy, really, and you're getting that depth that you need to get in order to build your receiving skill. And the way you do that is by making space in your life. So that could mean literally making space, like eliminating clutter, getting rid of things that are not aligned with your desires and your intentions. It could also mean just giving yourself more time in the day to do the things that you actually want to do, even if it's just 2 to 3 minutes a day. For this purpose, I highly recommend the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I believe is the author name. That will help you make that space for what it is you really want and what it is you really want to move towards. And so that deep knowing is about knowing without any comment, without any emotion. You're not trying. You're just doing from this very natural place. This is the going with the flow. This is the true feminine. You're not taking a whole bunch of action just to take action. It's coming from this really easeful, gentle place. And it's the doing from the knowing rather than pushing, struggling, hustle culture, just like pushing your own agenda. You're going with the current of life. You are moved by the knowing and the knowing moves you. That's the energy that we're working towards. And those are the practical steps that you can do in order to move towards that energy, should you want to in 2026. The last part of this energy missive is I wanted to just take the words straight from my intuition, not translate it, just say it the way my intuition said it. And so that's the concluding message for everything that we've said. For 2026, we'd like you to love yourselves as you've never done before, as you've never dared to before, as you've never dreamed of before. This includes taking good care of your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, your song. We want you to take care and tend to your song, your life song. What's the tone of your song, the quality, the lyrics, the rhythm? We want to tell you to be divinely full of self. We want you to take self-care and throw it in the garbage. We want you to embrace radical self-forgiveness and self-consideration and self-regard instead. When was the last time you had radical self-regard? When was the last time you really regarded yourself, really considered yourself? We would like you to be free. And what we've described above is your ticket to freedom. And that was the concluding part of this missive. Now, one thing I want to say is that they talk about your life song. And it's really funny because when I heard that missive, I was like, oh yeah, there's an artist. Her name is Olivia Dean. And her songs feel like my life song in terms of tone, quality, lyrics, rhythm. And so I've been listening a lot to her. And so if that tickles your fancy, where you have a artist or a song that you can play that's part of your theme song, that you want to be part of your theme song, then play that, because that'll help you get into the energy of your 2026 faster than anything else, because it's sound. Sound really has the ability to go deep into our psyche. So if there's an artist or a song or a genre of music you really like, for me, the genre is Afrobeats or jazz. Those are my genres that help me tune into the being I want to be and the being I am and the being of my entire soul. If there was something, it would be Afrobeats and jazz and Olivia Dean. So that's what I've been listening to. So you might choose to literally make your own life song and tune into that. Just a tip. Okay, so with this reading, I would really love for you to share with me over at my Instagram or my email if this resonated with you at all. Because what I really want is to see if this is helpful or not. Because I might do more collective readings every week at the podcast or via my email newsletter. And if this is helpful, then I'd like to do more of those and serve you in that way. So yeah, just let me know. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Share this episode with someone you think would benefit from these messages, because I know you know at least one person that would need to hear what we said in this episode. And it would be your free gift to them that just keeps on giving. Also, by the way, have you noticed a difference between this podcast and other podcasts you listen to? I don't interrupt you with ads. I don't tease you with half episodes only to hide the rest behind a paywall. I don't ask you to subscribe to a membership or listen to sponsor messages that have nothing to do with the episode or your spirit. And that's because it's just me, little old me behind this show. I create everything, the episodes, the graphics, the ritual website. I create all of it. I write all of it. I record and I pay for my editor and hosting out of my own pocket. And I'm really proud of all of this. I really am proud of this because it is such a handcrafted space. I'm not backed by any corporation that could distort my message. I don't pay for followers or fake reviews. This is a very real space. So my only ask to you is that you please leave a review for the show. It's free. It takes less than 30 seconds and it really helps. Just go down and rate 5 stars on the show, and that's all you need to do. But if you're feeling particularly generous this 2026, I would love a short written review, and that will take you under 2 minutes. And it tells the world that this is made by a real human, not an AI or a bot, and it can actually help someone who might need the same message that you did at the exact time that they need it. And it just helps people see what the tone and the quality of the show is about. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Welcome to season 2 of this ride of wild profoundness, wildly profundity. How many words can I make up? It's just, yeah, I just love those words, wildly profound. So my lovelies, may your 2026 serve to fill your cup with support from the unseen, true soul nourishment, and a knowing that moves you. See you next time.